Days turned into weeks, and the small island that once felt empty now buzzed with new life. The humans and the exiled aliens worked together, slowly building trust. Simple shelters turned into small living spaces made from both Earth's materials and alien technology. The atmosphere was calm, filled with a quiet sense of cooperation. Rayan spent most of his time with Alan and her team. He wanted to learn everything he could about their science, language, and history. Every evening, they sat near the ocean as the wind carried the sound of gentle waves. Alan shared stories of her people's past, their once beautiful world, and how the stars had guided them through darkness. She told Rayan that on Nira, their people lived in harmony with nature. They did not build tall cities or pollute their planet. Their energy came from crystals deep inside their world that glowed with warmth and light. They had no need for war or greed, but when their sun began to fail, their peaceful life slowly faded. They built great ships and left their home behind, hoping to find a new world. Rayan listened carefully, trying to imagine what it would be like to lose an entire planet. He could see the sadness in Alan's eyes when she spoke about the last days of Nira. Yet she always ended her stories with a message of hope. She said that every journey, no matter how painful, carried a lesson for those willing to learn. While the humans and aliens worked side by side, the world outside the island was restless. News about the aliens filled every screen. Some people celebrated their arrival as a sign of unity, while others feared what it could mean for the future. Leaders from powerful nations demanded full control over the aliens' technology. Scientists from different countries argued about who should be allowed to study them. Rayan tried not to let the outside world's arguments reach the island. He wanted this place to remain peaceful. He believed that Earth could prove itself worthy of the trust the exiles had placed in it. One afternoon, a new group of human scientists arrived on the island. Among them was a young engineer named Mira. She was kind and curious and quickly became part of Rayan's research team. Mira spent hours talking with Alan's people, learning about their technology. She was amazed by how the alien energy systems worked without burning fuel or harming the planet. She often told Rayan that Earth could change forever if this knowledge was shared wisely. Alan agreed, but warned that such power had to be handled with care. She said, "Every world that forgets balance loses its light. Your planet has beauty, but it must learn patience." Rayan understood her meaning. Humans were known for their ambition, but ambition without wisdom could be dangerous. He began writing long notes about everything he learned from the exiles, hoping that one day people would read them and understand the importance of harmony. As time passed, a quiet friendship grew between the humans and the aliens. The alien children began to learn simple Earth languages, and the human scientists tried to learn a few words from the alien tongue. The two groups shared meals and music. Rayan noticed that laughter had become common again on the island. One evening, while everyone gathered around a soft, glowing crystal from Nira, Alan shared a song from her world. The sound was gentle and filled with emotion. Even though no one understood the words, the feeling was clear. It spoke of home, loss, and hope. The humans listened in silence, many with tears in their eyes. When the song ended, Rayan whispered, "Your music feels like light." Alan smiled and said, "It is the sound of memory." But while the island was peaceful, not everything was calm beyond its borders. Satellites detected small ships hovering far from the island's airspace. Some governments suspected that these ships belonged to other alien species following the refugees. Others thought they were secret observation drones sent by rival countries. The Global Council grew nervous and ordered increased security around the island. Rayan noticed the tension growing. He feared that if humans became too cautious, they might destroy the fragile trust that had been built. He talked with Mira and said, "We have to protect them, not cage them. The world must see that peace is possible." Mira agreed, but she also knew that politics was not as simple as hope. A few days later, Alan approached Rayan with a quiet expression. She said her people had detected strange signals from space. They believed it might be the remnants of another Niran ship that had gone missing long ago. Her voice trembled slightly as she said, "If that signal is real, then others may still be alive. We cannot ignore it." Rayan promised to help. Together with Mira and a few engineers, they began working on a communication array to reach the distant signal. They used both human and alien technology, creating a tall structure that stood like a shining tower on the island's hill. Every night, Its lights blinked across the sky, sending soft pulses of coded messages into space. Weeks passed, and the world continued to watch. People everywhere talked about the Island of Peace, where humans and aliens worked together. Many started to believe that this cooperation could lead to a new era for Earth. But not everyone wanted that future. Some powerful figures feared losing control if alien knowledge became public. One night, as Rayan sat by the sea writing his report, Mira came running toward him with excitement. She said, "We got a response." Rayan quickly followed her to the communication station. Alan and her people stood near the screens, their faces glowing in the dim light. The signal was faint but clear. It carried a rhythm that only Alan's people could understand. Tears filled her eyes as she whispered, "They are alive." The atmosphere on the island changed instantly. Everyone felt a mix of joy and fear. Joy because they had found hope that others survived, and fear because they did not know what would happen next. If another group of exiles was still wandering in space, they would need help to reach safety. Ryan sent a message to the Global Council, asking permission to guide the other ship to Earth. The response was slow and uncertain. Some members of the Council wanted to welcome them, but others argued that one alien group was already enough. They worried about resources and control. Meanwhile, Alan's people worked day and night, strengthening their systems to prepare for the arrival of their lost companions. Rayan and Mira stayed close, helping in every way they could. Rayan often wondered why fate had brought these events to Earth, a small planet that had always looked up at the stars with longing. Maybe this was humanity's test, to show the galaxy that kindness could still exist. As dawn rose over the island, the sea reflected shades of gold and blue. Rayan stood beside Alan and said, "No matter what happens next, Earth will not turn its back on you." Alan looked at him, her eyes full of gratitude. "Your words give us strength. We believe that your world still remembers compassion. That is why we came here." But deep inside, Rayan knew that the road ahead would not be easy. The message from space had awakened both hope and fear across the planet. Some saw it as a miracle, while others called it a threat. The days to come would test everything they had built: trust, friendship, and faith. As the first light touched the ocean, the communication tower blinked once more, sending a new message into the endless sky. Somewhere beyond the stars, someone was listening, waiting for an answer. In the quiet night sky above Earth, something unusual happened. People all over the world noticed strange lights moving slowly through the sky. They were not like shooting stars or satellites. They were large glowing shapes that drifted silently. News channels started to show them live. Some people were scared, others were curious, but no one knew what they really were. At the same time, in a small observatory on the hills of South America, a scientist named Rayan watched the lights through his old telescope. He was calm but filled with deep curiosity. For years he had studied the stars, hoping to find some sign of life beyond Earth. That night his dream seemed to come true. He quickly began to record everything he saw. The next day, many countries sent aircraft to follow the strange lights. The objects did not attack or move fast. They simply hovered quietly above the clouds. After a few hours, they descended slowly toward the Pacific Ocean. The world waited in silence as one of the ships landed gently on a deserted island. Cameras and satellites focused on it, and people everywhere held their breath. From the silver ship came light, pure and bright. Then a group of beings stepped out. They were tall, with pale silver skin that reflected sunlight. Their faces looked calm and peaceful, their eyes large and filled with sadness. They did not carry weapons. They raised their hands slowly, showing that they came in peace. World leaders held urgent meetings. Some wanted to send soldiers, others wanted to send scientists. In the end, they agreed to send a small group of humans to make contact. Among them was Rayan, chosen because of his experience with astronomy and his calm nature. When Rayan arrived on the island, he saw the alien ship up close. It was silent and smooth, made of some unknown metal that shimmered like water. The air around it felt slightly warm, and a soft humming sound could be heard. The aliens stood in a line, waiting patiently. One of them stepped forward. Her voice was soft, but it echoed clearly in everyone's ears, as if it did not come from her mouth but from inside their minds. She introduced herself as Alan, a representative of her people. She said they were not here to invade or harm. They were looking for a place to stay. Rayan asked gently, "Where have you come from?" Alan's eyes dimmed slightly. She said her people came from a planet once known as Nera, far beyond the nearby stars. Their home had been destroyed, not by war or greed, but by the cold silence of space. A great cosmic storm had passed through their system, tearing apart their sun and making their world unlivable. They had fled in large ships, carrying what little remained of their history and people. They had traveled across the galaxy, searching for a place to rest. But wherever they went, other civilizations turned them away. Some feared them, others saw them as trouble. They were called exiles, wanderers without a home. Many of their ships had broken during the long journey. Only a few thousand of them were left, and their ships were dying. When Rayan heard this, he felt something heavy in his heart. He looked at Alan's eyes and saw pain mixed with hope. He turned to his team and said, "We must tell the world their story." Soon news spread across Earth that the strangers were refugees, not invaders. People began to debate what should be done. Some said Earth had enough problems of its own and could not take in another species. Others said this was a chance to show that humanity could be kind. In the middle of all the discussions, Alan's people started to grow weak. Their ships were running out of power, and the air inside them was turning toxic for them. Rayan requested permission from the Global Council to allow the aliens temporary shelter. After long talks, the Council agreed to let them stay under observation on a remote island. Rayan and his team built tents and simple facilities for them. Human doctors and scientists worked together to understand their biology and find ways to help them survive in Earth's atmosphere. Surprisingly, the aliens' needs were simple. They could breathe Earth's air and drink its water, though they needed filtered sunlight because their skin was sensitive. As days passed, small signs of friendship began to grow. Some of the alien children laughed when they touched Earth's soil for the first time. They found joy in watching birds fly and waves crash. The humans, too, started to see them not as strangers but as guests who had suffered much. One evening, Rayan sat with Alan near the shore. The sun was setting, painting the sky in orange and gold. The ocean breeze moved softly around them. Rayan asked her if she missed her home. Alan looked at the horizon and said, "Every day. But now when I see your world, I feel a quiet peace. It reminds me of what we lost and what we might find again." Rayan nodded. "Maybe Earth can be your home now. Maybe this is where your journey was meant to end?" Alan smiled faintly. "If your people accept us, we will help. We can share what we know about the stars, energy, and healing. We do not wish to take, only to live." That night, Rayan looked at the stars again. They shone bright and endless, just as they always had. But now he felt something new in his heart. A belief that the galaxy, vast and cold as it might be, had brought two lonely worlds together for a reason. Over the next few weeks, the relationship between humans and the exiled aliens slowly grew stronger. They learned to communicate better. The aliens taught humans about clean energy sources that did not harm the planet. In return, humans shared food, music, and stories. The island began to feel alive with a sense of hope, but not everyone on Earth was happy. Some people feared that helping the aliens might bring danger in the future. Rumors spread that the aliens were hiding secrets, that maybe their story was not completely true. Governments started to argue again. Rayan knew this peace was fragile. One wrong move could turn it all into mistrust. Yet he also believed that understanding was stronger than fear. He wrote reports to the Council, asking them to give the aliens a chance to live freely on Earth. In a secret meeting one night, Alan told Rayan something she had not told anyone before. Her people were not just refugees. They were the last keepers of ancient knowledge once shared by an alliance of worlds long gone. That alliance had fallen apart, and the few who survived were scattered. She said Earth's survival might one day depend on what her people still remembered. Rayan listened carefully, feeling both amazed and uneasy. He knew the world was not ready to hear that. But he also knew that destiny had brought the exiles to Earth for a purpose that was only beginning to unfold. As the stars shone brighter above the island, Earth stood at the edge of a new chapter, a chapter that would test its compassion, wisdom, and unity. The galaxy had exiled a people, but maybe, just maybe, Earth would be the one world kind enough to give them refuge. The morning after the signal was received, the island was full of movement. The alien engineers worked quickly, checking the communication tower again and again. The soft pulse from space was still coming through, but weak and distant. Everyone could feel the excitement mixed with worry. It was a sign of hope, but also a reminder of how fragile that hope could be. Rayan stood beside Mira near the large display screen. The glowing symbols danced slowly as the system tried to decode the message. Alan and her people whispered quietly among themselves using their soft musical language. When the translation finally appeared, it said that a second ship from Nero was alive but stranded in deep space, unable to move. Their energy sources were failing, and they had been drifting for many years, waiting for help. Alan looked at Rayon and said gently, "They are my people. They trusted that we would find them. We cannot let them vanish into the dark." Her voice was steady, but Rayon could feel the weight in her words. He nodded and said, "Then we must find a way to bring them home." The message was sent to the World Council again. Scientists everywhere offered suggestions on how to help, but the distance was too great. No human ship could travel that far. The only chance was to repair one of the alien vessels that had landed on the island. It was damaged and without proper energy, but it was still the most advanced ship on Earth. The Council allowed the plan, but under supervision. They feared the technology might be misused, so they sent a few officials to monitor the work. The atmosphere on the island slowly changed. What once felt like a place of friendship now felt heavier, full of quiet pressure. Despite that, Rayon, Mira, and Alan continued their work. The alien engineers shared their knowledge of energy crystals. They showed how to balance power flow without pollution or waste. Mira was amazed. She said, "If the world learns this, we can heal our planet." Alan smiled softly and said, "Then let us begin with saving those still lost." Days passed as they repaired the ship. The humans brought tools and materials, and the aliens used their knowledge to restore the systems. The process required patience and trust. Sometimes the equipment failed and both sides had to work late into the night. The bond between Rayon, Mira, and Alan grew stronger with each passing day. One evening, as the stars filled the sky, Rayon and Alan stood outside the ship, watching the ocean. The repaired engines glowed softly in the background. Rayon said, "Do you ever think they will forgive the galaxy for what it did to you?" Alan was silent for a while before answering, "Forgiveness is not for the galaxy. It is for ourselves. We cannot carry anger into a new world." Her words stayed in Rayon's mind. He realized how wise and gentle her people truly were. They had suffered so much yet still chose peace. Meanwhile, outside the island, many nations continued to argue. Some wanted to take control of the alien ship once it was ready. Others said Earth should help without taking anything in return. The arguments grew louder each day. Rayon received countless messages from the council asking for updates. He kept his reports calm and clear, hoping to keep politics away from the island's quiet progress. Finally, after long weeks of work, the ship was ready for a test flight. The day was bright and everyone gathered near the landing field. The ship stood tall, shining silver under the sun. Its engines hummed softly and blue lights ran across its surface like flowing water. Mira checked the readings and said with excitement, "Energy stable. Systems are balanced." Alan nodded with calm pride. "It will fly again." The ship lifted slowly from the ground, the air vibrating gently. It rose above the trees and hovered for a moment, then circled the island once before landing safely again. Everyone clapped and cheered. It was a moment of joy for both humans and aliens, but the happiness did not last long. That evening, the council sent a strict message. They declared that no alien ship could leave Earth without permission. They feared that if the exiles contacted others, it might attract unwanted attention from other species or bring danger to the planet. Alan's people were disappointed. They wanted to rescue their stranded kin, not escape Earth. Rayon tried to reason with the council, saying that helping others was a moral duty. He said, "If we turn our backs now, what kind of world are we protecting?" But the council only replied that they needed more time to think. The island became quiet again. The aliens continued their daily routines, but Rayon could feel the sadness among them. Alan spent hours near the communication tower, listening to the faint signal from the distant ship. Mira often joined her, trying to strengthen the connection. They both knew that time was running out for those still lost in space. One night, as the moonlight covered the sea, Alan came to Rayon's tent. She said, "We cannot wait for permission any longer. My people will die if we do nothing." Her tone was calm but firm. Rayon looked at her, understanding the pain behind her words. "If you go without approval, the council will see it as a betrayal," he said. Alan looked toward the ship and replied, "Sometimes doing what is right means breaking silence." Rayon did not answer right away. He walked out of his tent and looked at the stars. He knew she was right. The rules of politics could not decide who deserved to live. After a moment, he turned back and said quietly, "Then let me help you." The next few nights were filled with careful planning. Mira joined them too, helping to prepare the ship for launch. They worked secretly, making sure no one noticed. The alien engineers trusted Rayan completely. They saw in him the same spirit they once had on their homeworld, the courage to choose compassion over fear. When everything was ready, Alan gathered her people in a circle near the ship. She spoke softly, thanking Earth for its kindness and promising to return once they found their missing kin. She said, "We will not forget the world that opened its heart when others closed their doors." As dawn began to rise, the ship powered up once more. The blue lights shimmered across its surface, casting a soft glow on everyone's faces. Rayan and Mira stood together, watching with mixed emotions. The engines lifted the ship slowly, and the sound of wind filled the air. "Safe journey," Rayan said quietly. Alan looked down at him and nodded. "We will find them, and we will come back." The ship rose higher, leaving a bright trail across the sky. Everyone on the island watched in silence as it disappeared into the clouds. Rayan felt proud but also worried. He knew what they had done might cause great trouble when the council found out. Later that day, when the council learned about the launch, they were furious. They accused Rayan and his team of breaking international laws. Orders were sent to restrict all communication with the island. But Rayan did not care about the politics anymore. He only cared about whether Alan and her people would reach their lost kin safely. That night, Rayan stood on the shore again. The ocean was calm, and the stars reflected on its surface like tiny lanterns. Mira stood beside him, silent. After a while, she said, "Do you think they will make it?" Rayan looked at the horizon and answered, "If anyone can, it is them. They are stronger than we think." Far beyond the clouds, the silver ship moved quietly through the vastness of space, guided by the hope that had brought them to Earth. And on that small island, humanity waited, not knowing that their choice to help the exiles would soon shape the future of both species. The days after the ship's secret departure were tense and uncertain. Around the world, news spread that the aliens had left Earth without permission. Every country began to question who had helped them and what their real intentions were. On the island, Rayan and Mira tried to remain calm, but they knew the council's anger would soon reach them. Military ships appeared near the island, surrounding it from a distance. They did not attack, but their presence was clear. The once peaceful place filled with laughter and learning now felt quiet and heavy. The remaining aliens looked worried. Some feared that humans would no longer trust them, while others believed that Rayan and Mira had done the right thing by helping Alan's ship. Rayan spent long hours writing reports to explain the truth. He said again and again that Alan's people had not left to harm anyone. They had gone to save their lost kin. He explained that humanity should not see it as a betrayal, but as an act of compassion. But the council refused to listen. They demanded full control of the island and all alien technology left behind. Mira tried to keep everyone calm. She worked with the alien engineers to protect their equipment and data. She said, "We must not lose everything we have built here. This place is proof that peace is possible." Rayan agreed. He knew that fear could destroy everything faster than war. One evening, as the sun set in soft orange light, the communication tower came alive again. The screen blinked with familiar glowing symbols. The missing ship had sent a message. The signal was weak but steady. Alan's voice came through, calm and clear. She said, "We found them. The other ship is safe. They are weak but alive. We are bringing them home." The moment her voice was heard, joy filled the island. The aliens embraced each other with relief, and Mira's eyes filled with tears. Even Rayan, who tried to stay composed, could not hide his smile. For a short time, everyone forgot the tension outside. Hope had returned, but before they could celebrate fully, another message arrived. This one from the Global Council. It ordered the complete lockdown of the island. All communication devices had to be turned off. They feared that more alien ships might arrive, and that Earth might become a target for other galactic forces. The Council's decision shocked everyone. Rayan argued, "We should welcome them. They are coming back with survivors. We cannot treat them like enemies." But the message from the council was final. They wanted no ship to land without strict permission. Days passed in silence. The military presence grew stronger around the island. Drones hovered in the sky, watching every movement. Ryan and Mira felt helpless. The aliens who remained on the island looked up at the stars each night, waiting for their people to return, but fear now shadowed their hope. One night, as the moon shone bright over the water, a young alien child approached Ryan. Her name was Leon. She looked up at him and asked softly, "Did we do something wrong?" Ryan knelt down and smiled kindly. "No, Leon. You did nothing wrong. Sometimes people fear what they do not understand." Her question stayed in his heart long after she left. He realized that this moment would define how Earth was remembered in the stars, as a world of kindness or as a world ruled by fear. A week later, a new signal appeared. It came from space, stronger and closer than before. Alan's ship was returning. Ryan and Mira rushed to the communication tower to confirm. The readings were clear. The ship was approaching Earth's orbit. The alien engineers on the island cheered with happiness. They had done it. They had brought their people home. But before they could send a welcome message, a warning flashed on the main screen. The Council had activated Earth's defense systems. Large satellites in orbit had locked onto the returning ship. They believed it might be an unknown threat. Ryan's heart sank. He sent urgent messages to the Council, begging them to stop. "They are not enemies, they are survivors," he wrote. But there was no reply. The island's communication lines were soon restricted. The military around the island received orders to prepare for any possible landing. Mira turned to Ryan with fear in her eyes. They will not listen. They are blinded by fear. Ryan clenched his fists but stayed calm. Then we will find another way. He gathered the remaining alien engineers and told them to send a coded signal directly to Alan. They had to warn her that Earth was in a state of panic. Using their technology, they sent a beam of soft blue light into the sky, carrying a simple message: "Do not descend yet. Wait." Hours passed in silence. Everyone watched the stars, waiting for a reply. Finally, a faint response appeared on the screen. Alan's voice said, "We understand. We will wait above the atmosphere. We trust you." Ryan felt a small wave of relief. At least they had time to find a peaceful solution. He and Mira then tried to contact the Council again through any available channel. They sent a new message explaining that the returning ship carried wounded survivors and posed no threat. They promised that the ship would land peacefully and only on the same island. While waiting for a reply, Ryan looked around the island. The sea was calm, and the night air was filled with the quiet sound of waves. The aliens stood together near the communication tower, their faces lit by soft lights. There was fear in their eyes, but also faith. Faith that the humans who had helped them once would not abandon them now. Finally, after long hours, a message came from the Council. It said that Earth's leaders had agreed to allow the returning ship to land, but only under observation. It would be escorted by drones, and no one was to approach it until they were cleared. It was not a warm welcome, but it was better than rejection. When Ryan told Alan's people, they sighed in relief. Mira smiled faintly and said, "At least they are listening." Ryan nodded. Sometimes one step toward peace takes more courage than 100 steps toward war. The next day, the sky above the island glowed once again. A silver shape appeared through the clouds, shining in the sunlight. The ship descended slowly, guided by gentle streams of blue light. Everyone on the island watched in silence as it landed softly on the sand. When the doors opened, Alan stepped out, followed by her people. They looked tired but alive. The others from the stranded ship followed behind, weak but smiling. The reunion was quiet and full of emotion. No words were needed. The air itself seemed to carry the warmth of their relief. Ryan and Mira watched with joy. The military officers who stood nearby also seemed to soften as they saw the scene before them. It was not the meeting of enemies, but of family. Alan looked at Ryan and said, "You kept your promise. Earth did not turn away. Rayan smiled. Earth just needed to remember its heart. The days that followed were filled with healing and rebuilding. The survivors were given care, and human doctors worked beside alien healers. Slowly, the atmosphere on the island changed again. Suspicion began to fade, replaced by quiet respect. World leaders soon realized that the exiles had not come to take, but to share. Their technology began to help solve many of Earth's problems: clean energy, pure water, and better medicine. The fear that once divided the planet started to fade, and a new idea began to grow, that maybe Earth could become not just a home for humans, but a home for all who needed refuge. Yet Rayan knew the peace they had built was still fragile. The galaxy was vast and not every world was kind. There were still unknown forces beyond the stars. But for now, as he stood watching the sunset beside Alan and Mira, he allowed himself to believe that kindness had won this small battle. He looked at the sky and said softly, "Maybe one day the stars will speak of Earth not as a world of fear, but as the world that offered hope." The island had changed forever. What was once a quiet place of learning and hope had become a symbol of courage and unity. Humans and aliens lived together, working to repair ships, heal the wounded, and share knowledge. For the first time in many years, the exiled people felt a sense of home. Rayan walked along the shore with Mira, the soft ocean waves brushing against their feet. Both looked up at the sky, where a faint glimmer of Alan's ship could still be seen hovering above the atmosphere. It was a reminder that their journey was not yet complete. Many of the newly returned exiles were still weak, and more care was needed. Alan approached them, her steps calm and graceful. She smiled gently, her eyes reflecting the glow of the rising sun. "The survivors are stronger than we thought. They will heal quickly with your help," she said. Rayan nodded. "We will do everything we can." "Earth is ready to be your home," Mira added, "and your people can help us too. Together we can build a world that is safer and brighter." Alan's people nodded, understanding the promise in her words. The next days were filled with activity. Alien engineers worked alongside human scientists to create systems that purified water and generated energy without harming the environment. Children from both species played together on the beach, laughing as they built sand structures and shared stories. Music and lights from alien technology blended with human songs, creating a peaceful harmony that filled the island. For Rayan, each day was a lesson in trust and patience. He watched how humans learned from the aliens and how the aliens adapted to Earth. It was a slow process, but one filled with hope. Every healed wound, every solved problem, and every smile felt like a step closer to unity. One evening, Rayan and Mira gathered near the communication tower with Alan and her council of elders. The topic of discussion was how to reach out to the wider world. They had seen both fear and hope in humans, and they wanted to ensure that Earth could become a safe haven for others in need. Alan spoke first. "Your world has shown that kindness is possible, but we must teach patience. Many humans are still unsure of what our arrival means. We cannot force understanding." "It must grow," Rayan agreed. "Education is the key. If we share knowledge and stories, humans will see that we are not so different." Mira added, "We can show them that cooperation is stronger than fear." Together, they created a plan to send messages of hope to cities and towns worldwide. The exiles would share their experiences, their knowledge, and their culture. They would tell humans how compassion could change everything. News channels and communication networks received the stories, and slowly, fear began to give way to curiosity. While the world started to learn about the exiles, the council continued to monitor the island. Slowly, they began to relax as they saw no threat from the aliens. Instead, they saw improvements in technology, medicine, and agriculture. Reports of cooperation spread across the planet, and people started to understand the importance of trust. On the island, life continued to flourish. Alien children learned to swim in the ocean, while human children were introduced to the wonders of space science. Teachers and scientists from both worlds worked together, blending knowledge and creativity. Rayan watched as the bond between the two species grew stronger every day. One morning, as the first rays of sunlight touched the island, a new signal appeared in space. It came from a distant world that had observed the aliens' journey. The message was simple but powerful. "We have watched your courage. Earth is now a place of hope. Aylin's eyes glimmered with emotion. She said softly, "The galaxy sees what we have done here. This is only the beginning." Rand felt a surge of pride. Their small island had become a beacon of light in the vast darkness of space. The remaining alien ships were gradually repaired with human help. Plans were made to settle a small portion of the exiles on the mainland, where they could live safely and continue sharing their knowledge. Cities were prepared with careful planning, ensuring that both species could thrive together without conflict. Rand and Mira continued their work, building connections between humans and aliens. They organized meetings, cultural exchanges, and educational programs. They wanted the world to understand that the galaxy was full of life, and that kindness was the strongest force of all. One evening, Rand sat with Alan at the shore. The stars reflected on the calm water, and a gentle breeze moved through the palm trees. Rand asked, "Do you think the galaxy will ever trust Earth again?" Alan smiled faintly. "Trust is earned slowly, but if your world continues to show compassion, others will see it. Earth has the chance to be a home for anyone in need." Rand nodded, feeling the truth in her words. "We have learned so much from your people. Maybe the galaxy will learn from us too." Alan placed a hand lightly on his shoulder. "Your world has a heart. Never forget it." The next morning, children from both species ran along the beach, their laughter carrying over the water. Engineers and scientists continued their work, while elders shared stories of distant stars and forgotten worlds. Music, light, and knowledge blended together, creating a peaceful rhythm that filled the island. Over time, humans and aliens learned to depend on each other. Earth's cities began to adopt the clean energy systems, while hospitals benefited from advanced alien medicine. Scholars studied the stars with renewed inspiration, knowing that life beyond Earth was real and that unity was possible. Ryan and Mira watched all of this with quiet satisfaction. They had been part of something greater than themselves and a bridge between worlds. Every healed person, every successful project, and every shared story was proof that compassion could change even the darkest journey into light. One evening, as the sun dipped below the horizon, Alan gathered her people for a ceremony. They lit small glowing crystals from Nira and placed them around the island. Each light represented hope, survival, and the choice to trust in kindness. The aliens sang softly, their voices blending with the sounds of the ocean. Humans joined them, creating a harmony that reached far into the night. Ryan stood among them, looking at the lights and feeling the warmth of unity. He realized that Earth had not only given refuge to exiles, but had also gained a new understanding of courage, patience, and hope. As the years passed, the exiles integrated into human society while maintaining their own traditions and culture. They taught, healed, and shared, and Earth in turn grew stronger, wiser, and more compassionate. The story of the exiles and the humans who had helped them spread across the galaxy, inspiring other worlds to look for hope, not fear, in strangers. Ryan often stood at the edge of the island, gazing at the stars. He thought of the journey that had begun with strange lights in the sky and fear in human hearts. Now those same stars shone as a reminder that courage, kindness, and understanding could bring life where there had once been only darkness. Alan joined him silently, looking up at the sky. "Your world is changing," she said softly. Ryan smiled. "Because people learn to trust and care. That is what makes Earth a home," she nodded. "The galaxy will remember this world, not as one that turned away, but as one that gave refuge." The ocean reflected the moonlight. The island glowed with life, and above them, the stars twinkled with quiet approval. For the first time in a long journey, both humans and exiles felt truly at peace. Earth had become a beacon of hope, a place where compassion conquered fear, and where even those exiled by the galaxy could find a home.